Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrible General Health System's Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time Sports. I'm your host, Keith Weissike. Thank you so much for joining us. We always like to bring in some of the local leaders, some of the coaches that are making a difference for these kids. Really excited to welcome into the program Kyle Lasang, head coach at E.D. White Catholic High School. Welcome to the program, Coach.
Thank you. We really appreciate having me, being able to talk about our program and a program that's going really well right now, fortunately. But I think it's a tribute to our kids and our administration, our coaches, for the start that we've had, and learned a lot along the way. So thanks for having us.
Absolutely, Coach. One of the things we always like to ask about is, I know coming off of COVID from last year, staying with COVID this year, what's some of the things maybe that you learned about the team and maybe some of the impacts that COVID had coming into the season?
You know, I think the biggest thing that we've learned through COVID and even through the hurricane now is that when we're at practice, it's practice time, it's football time, and we separate that from everything else. When it was COVID, when we were quarantined, there were times to be quarantined. There was time to be on a Zoom class. There were times to be helping one another over this hurricane period. But when it's practice time, it's really practice time. I think we've had a renewed focus of what it really means to be at practice. And I think that's partially because maybe we feel a little fortunate to be able to do it, to be able to be there and to enjoy that sport and have some time with our teammates, coaches. I think that's maybe the biggest thing that we've learned through these two kind of catastrophic events that we've had, Yeah. So as a program, I thought we handled it really well.
You know, it's really interesting you said that. I wrote an article some years ago about the gift of presence, and being able to be present is so very important. I love the idea that you and your coaching staff have been able to lead the team that way.
Right.
It's not that easy to get them to forget all the distractions, but it sounds like you guys have found some sense of normalcy through COVID, through the hurricane. And speaking of the hurricane, did the hurricane make any difference for you with regards to personnel from before and after?
No, it didn't. We had
Wow.
We had 105 kids in our program before the storm. Came back after the storm with 105 kids. Kids were wanting to be at practice. They were wanting to get back to some sense of being normal again. We had those moments of team gatherings where we went pick up trash and help people out in the community and those kinds of things. And they saw that as a glimmer of hope that we would eventually be back to practice, be able to play football games. We lost 2 games, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a blessing to be back with our teammates and being able to practice. And I think that sense of normalcy is not completely back because we're not at school 5 days a week.
Right.
But it's getting there. But I haven't really seen a difference in how we practice now versus how we practice in a normal year, and that's a credit to our coaches and kids.
It really is. One of the things we talk about is the best way to help ourselves is to help somebody else. It sounds like you and your team really went above and beyond for the community. Tell us how that was team building as well as community serving.
Well, I think it came from within the team, first of all. There were a lot of kids who were concerned about some aspects of what was going on in the community, maybe some families that couldn't get help. Reached out to some city leaders, organized some distribution of goods, organized some cleanup at a lot of people's houses, and then actually had some cookouts and went feed the National Guard guys who were there, those kinds of things. And those things just sprung up. They weren't orchestrated. They weren't planned. They were things that we saw a need. We actually had a team get together, had a lot of food left over, and went, like, what do we do with this? And right across the street at East Thibodaux Middle School was stationed a bunch of National Guard guys.
Right.
Hey, man, let's go give them some food. So I don't know if they knew what they were eating, but it was good Cajun food.
I don't know that it matters when it comes to
matter.
those kinds of things. And again, just being able to do those kinds of things for the community, it just really echoes the importance of what your team is about and the character of your team. It seems like this is a team of character.
It is. I think with character comes your ability to handle adversity, and that's one of the things that kind of shines through. You don't have guys who are complaining about the situation. Have guys who are just accepting the situation. One of the main tenets of our program is called Arena Focus, and it goes back to the man in the arena part of Teddy Roosevelt's speech a long time ago.
Sure.
And it really talks about what it means to be a team and what it means, how precious that time is as a team and teammates, and how we treat one another and how we treat the community and those kinds of things. And I really think our team has bought into that arena focus. We talk about it a lot. The arena, what's your arena right now? Well, if your arena is going clean up a yard, it's that attention that is most necessary at that time. Is your arena at practice? Well, it's your attention is necessary at that time. If your arena is in the classroom, your attention is in that arena at that time. So I think our kids do a really good job of separating their arenas and really focusing on that job. Of course, you got to have some leadership to do that. You got to have some character to do that. It's not easy for teenagers to separate those things a lot of times. And we just don't want a kid at practice who's thinking about what's happening at home or what's happening in the community or what's happening in the classroom and vice versa.
All the challenges that we talked about in this last segment could not have predicted how well this team has played and some of the unique wins. Let's talk a little bit about the start of the season and what you guys kind of did coming right out of the gates.
Yeah, we, you really didn't know what to expect.
Right.
You're coming off of some COVID issues and hurricane and that kind of thing. Thought we had a chance to be really good. I think the difference from this team and many other teams that I've had is athletically, maybe we match up a little bit better with some of the opponents that we play. Our schedule was loaded with athletic football teams.
Right.
And when you have some guys in the secondary, specifically defensively, that can run, I think we have 4 guys that are under 4.5 back there. When they can run, you kind of give yourself a chance to win some football games. That is translated obviously into a great defensive effort. Defensively, we haven't given up a point yet. We gave up 2 scores on special teams to Ellender, but to go 4 games out the gate and not give up a point is a credit defensively. Coach Bajeron, who's my defensive coordinator, does a great job with those guys. But I think athletically we run pretty well. I think that's a difference in our football team. Offensively, started off a little rocky against Assumption, scored 7 points, put the ball on the ground way too much.
Right.
But man, really rebounded the next week. Starting a sophomore quarterback,
Right.
Sophomore fullback, and then our offense, those 2 guys are really, really key. When you start sophomores, you never really know what to expect.
Right.
But those guys have matured really quickly. They've done well. I think the strength of our team offensively, offensive line play, being physical. We joke all the time. We go to 7-on-7s in the summer, which is a flag football type thing, and
Right.
And we're there just because we have to be there.
Right.
But we know that's not real football.
Okay.
And so I think that's to our advantage because offensively we run a little different offense than most people do with the spread and things like that. Maybe a little more physical. And so that's been to our advantage.
It's really interesting. You talk about the physicality, but when you've got position players that match up, like you said, the speed in the secondary against some of the better receivers, because y'all have faced some good receivers, y'all have faced some good offenses, and to not give up a point defensively. And they talk about offense wins games and defense wins championships, and I know that O-line is where the trenches are, but boy, that defense probably takes a great deal of pride in what they're doing.
They do. And you get to the end of the game, maybe if it's a blowout or something, and our defensive coaches are just hoping that we don't give up a defensive score because they want that streak to keep going. And
Sure.
Look, and very fortunately, we've had some young guys come in and play defense really well for us. So the streak is still alive, and our defensive coaches are proud of that. But I think really it comes down to having some of our best athletes in that secondary. Ethan Lee is a free safety. He was an all-state player last year.
Right. I know his name.
He saves us a ton of times. I mean, he's a great open field tackler, ball hawk. We've got some really good guys back there that just run to the football. And look, we've pressured guys up front as well. Defensive line's really played well. There are a lot of questions defensively coming into the season.
Yeah.
Holden Tabor was our middle linebacker last year, really, really good player. Braxton Como's back there now, and I think that solidified our defense, really put everything together. Had a good front seven, good secondary, and it's translated into some shutouts.
That's fabulous stuff. And, you know, when you're talking about the 7-on-7s, you know, when you do it internally, when you've got your O-line against your D-line, you know, I'm sure that's a heck of a matchup on that line of scrimmage.
It really is. It's a battle every day because we go ones-on-ones every day, at least part of practice, and that's maybe not the norm for most people, but we do it because I want our kids to see what we're going to face in the future, you know. Go play Patterson this week,
right?
With, again, you know, just tremendous speed. Lutcher next week, huge football game. They're playing really, really well. They got a good combination of a lot of different things. And then Berwick and St. James to end the season. So, yeah, we're 4-0 right now, but I think the meat of our schedule is coming up. So we've been fortunate to be injury-free.
Oh, yeah, it's another really important aspect.
We've improved every week, and that's all I ask our kids to do. We're gonna go out to practice today and just ask them to get a little bit better than they were yesterday. So if we keep doing that, I think we'll be competitive.
Yeah, and it's just, and you know, it's the big picture, but focusing on the small things to get you where you need to be. Congratulations on no injuries. I mean, my gosh, that's just, you know, probably had some small injuries, but it's not kept anybody out of the lineup.
Yeah, we do have an off-season strength and conditioning program that is run by some guys off campus. They come to us. They kind of do their own thing. I think that's a huge part of it. Kids are really bought into the program as well. So I think that's a big part of staying injury-free, and our trainer does a really good job with our kids. So we've had some minor things, but nothing that's been, you know, season-ending.
Really, really good. Coach, you guys got a few seconds left. Just talk a little bit again about the character of these kids and in the last 30 seconds, what you're expecting.
Look, I go back to last year. I want to start with last year's senior class. That was the first class that really I was so impressed with their character. And I think that led to a semifinal appearance last year, built some momentum, and then our kids kind of jumped on the bandwagon after that. And it's kind of rolling in the right direction right now. I think if we keep going that way, we're going to have a chance to be really successful. But it all comes down to our kids and the buy-in to the program.
Well, they've obviously bought in. We're very excited for you. We look forward to watching you this week. Good luck this week and the rest of the season, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You got it. All right, guys, that'll do it for us here for Bayou Time Sports. Don't go anywhere. A whole lot more local programming when we continue.